to wherever you're learning yoga, at the gym or at a yoga center or from a friend or whatever. And the first thing that is normally taught, not always though, as I've been teaching, I found out that a lot of people actually come from different angles. But I think in the West, it's a little easier for us to come from the physical effort kind of place, you know, dealing with the physical body rather than pranayama and meditation. But it does happen. People will come to yoga asana having done first meditation or pranayama. So, but in general, the big wave of this popular yoga is coming from the body, right? It's a little easier to handle what's happening in my body than what's happening in my breath or what's happening in my mind and beyond. It's so subtle. So, as most of the yoga traditions are focusing on this in the West, it's important to understand where, you know, what the traditions say about asana. You see what I mean? So that it doesn't become too westernized. It already is very westernized, but it's not overly westernized. And steady and easeful. So you can interpret it in many different ways. But it meant a lot to me when I started studying the sutras because I saw in myself I wasn't very steady and easeful in the yoga asanas. I was very, let's go, let's force it, let's do as much as possible. You know, I'm doing this amazing workout and wow, it's so cool. I wouldn't have admitted to it, I wouldn't even have known it at the time, actually, you know, consciously. You know, it was an unconscious thing when you're practicing, and especially when you're in the Ashtanga world, and I was practicing with the best teacher ever, you know, so this didn't help my ego, right? You know, so when I would travel, for instance, and I would see other teachers, and if they tried to adjust me, I was like, oh, Eddie doesn't teach her like this, you know, you know, because I was in that world, right? And this became kind of part of my whole personality. And as I said, at the time, if you were to have told me this, I would have totally disagreed with you. No, of course not, I'm doing yoga, you know, but, you know, looking back, it's always when you look back. It's like when you're an obnoxious teenager and your parents tell you you're an obnoxious teenager, you know you're just old, right? And then when you look back, it's like, yeah, there was some obnoxiousness there. So it's kind of the same in the yoga practice. As you grow up in your yoga practice, you start to realize how far you are from yoga. You know, and now I see, but hopefully in 10 years I'll even see that even right now I'm still really, really farther than I even think I am from it at this point. So hopefully that means, because that'll mean that I've improved, you know, if in 10 years from now I still exactly as I am, then have the same perspective, then I haven't grown, right? So it's a positive thing, it's not a negative thing. And as teachers, I think it's important to keep it all in mind. When we go into our poses, you want to try to cultivate a sense of this steadiness, motionless, stillness, feeling firm in your feet or firm in yourself, basically. But at the same time, what happens? You know, this is kind of I saw it in myself and I see it in others as well, is that you start off, you know, being kind of limp, you know, you're not really working very hard, but your teacher gets you working, you know, wake up, Linda, wake up, do the work. And so then you start doing all that work, and then you take it where every muscle in your body is tensed to do the poses, right? You lift your arms with all the effort, right? You see people do this, right? You know, the fingers are engaged. Not much easefulness there. But it's kind of it seems like seems to me when I observe that it seems to be kind of a natural way of then we have to look at ourselves and say, now I'm steady, but I'm tense everywhere. I'm sore everywhere. I've become really narrow-minded, right? I'm an Ashtangi. This is the Ashtanga practice. No other practice is as good as my practice, right? You notice this sometimes when it's happening? And then you say to yourself, okay, you meet somebody who's doing pranayama who seems very calm and has a nice balanced life, and you're like, okay, they can't do a handstand, but they're so peaceful. I don't have that peacefulness. I have that edginess, right? And when you leave the Ashtanga practice, you feel like you can jump, 10 feet high. Have you ever had this practices? You come out and you just feel like, I can conquer the world. No, I don't know if it's just me that felt this, but I'm curious to see if other people have felt this kind of thing. No, because you've just done this really strong practice and it feels amazing. You feel energized, you feel great in your body, and you feel like you can do anything except for be peaceful. And somebody gives you the wrong coffee or something, and then you're like, hey! And you see this in Mysore, right? Like, this was what threw me off when I went to Mysore, actually. It was like middle way. And what is this? This is swadhyaya, right? It's learning about yourself. It's learning to really see what's happening. Is it that I really need to rest today? Because sometimes you do. You need to rest, You're going to go crazy if you don't rest. Your mind, you're going to scream at your kids. You're going to pick up your, your computer and throw it out the window, or, whatever. Something's going to happen where you're on edge because you've sleep deprived yourself, or you're just a walking zombie, or whatever it may be, or you're just continually getting sick because you're putting your body to the edge all the time. You get the shoulder injury, you get the knee injury, you get the hip injury, you get the back injury, but you just keep going. So this is it's talking to you, it's telling you, okay, maybe, Linda, maybe you went too far on that side, now I need to pull away from that a little bit. But then if you're never practicing, or you're just so easily able to choose something else instead of practicing, then maybe you went to the other side. But sometimes people ask me, but how do you know? I don't know. I'm answering it before anybody asks because I have no idea. The only thing I can say is you always become introspective. Meditation. You go inside, you ask yourself the questions. You watch, you see, you just continually see what is playing around in that little mind and then the higher mind. Have you guys discovered the difference? Do you feel like we've found there's the little mind that says, I'm tired today. And then there's the higher mind that says, get off your ass, right? I know how to spiral my arms. I know how to lift through the little finger. I know how to relax to a certain degree my trapezies. You know how to use the serratus. And at the beginning, it took like concentration, right? Oh, yes, okay, yeah, I have it. Oh, but I lost. Oh, okay, I have it. After some time, it just becomes lifting the arms. There's nothing else involved but lifting the arms, because you've kind of trained your body and you've trained your mind. And so that's a simple act, but it can become, it can be even Navasana. Navasana, actually, when you find the easefulness in Navasana, it becomes so much more manageable. You've stressed about it for so many years and you're holding, that you've been told to point the toes and you're holding, and I find that actually if I soften my legs and let the femurs go into the pelvis, I can stay there much longer like this than like that. And so there's some places where you're going to let go of all the effort. And I'm talking about it because actually you guys have a good level, you know? Everybody here is like, it's a good group. And this is what you see more often in people who've been practicing for a while, is that they've been putting all that effort, and now the effort can be, not everywhere, you know, the effort changes, it shifts paths, you know. The effort doesn't need to be in the fingers. The effort, maybe another example is in all the forward bendings. We're pushing our heel into the floor, we're softening our knee, but our leg is straight, our quads are engaged, our foot is engaged. All that work just to keep the leg straight, because remember at the beginning, it was hard to keep the legs straight, right? I remember it being hard. It was like, to be like this, I started sweating, you know, just to keep my legs like this. And now they just stay there. So why do I need to engage all those muscles just to stay there? I just have to engage here, right? Which is what we're going to talk about later. So I only hold it here, which is actually way harder than holding the toes, right? And holding the quads. So, and it's this fluctuation. You know, to achieve something, it's not always comfortable, right? You need to get yourself going and try and do some things. You're going to have some muscle pain, you know, to get to where you want to go. But so this is a description once you're there, basically. You know, I don't want to mislead you and have you start practicing your yoga asanas with no effort, right? Because they also say it's effortless effort. So it's like you have that. If you look at the person, it looks like there's no effort, but inside. And I liked when I read from Ramana Maharishi as well that meditation is intense internal work. And I was just like, intense? Intense? You know, like you should be, I would have put more like peaceful and letting go, you know, soft and easy and all these kind of words to like coming to enlightenment. Not intense, but it is. It's intense. To keep pulling the mind back is intense work until hopefully maybe one day it's not work anymore. And so it's the same with the asana. You know, when you're learning the asana, it's an intense work. You have to practice, you have to keep trying, you have to fall and come back and try again. You know, you keep doing this until it becomes easy or effortless effort.
And that is the reason why we practice asana, you know, to put us, you know, physically and mentally into a certain mood, into a certain state of mind, you know. And as you said, you know, by practicing asana, well, you know, I'm able now to stay seated in a comfortable position for 1 hour without moving. Whereas like when I started 20 years ago, I wouldn't be able to sit like that for 2 minutes, you know. My knee would be killing me, then my ankle, then my hip. I was fidgeting all the time. So how can you sit motionless if every 2 minutes you have to change your position, you know? If the body is agitated, the mind is going to be agitated, right? So, but as Linda pointed out, this is just a mean to a goal, right? Many people mistake, you know, the asana as the goal. You know, this is the practice. This is just one part of the practice, right? This is not where you should stop. You start with that, but you have to evolve.